Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. What happens overseas has a big impact on many Virginia farmers. Chef Tammy Brawley has a wintertime treat for your table. And some Virginia farmers are preserving their produce to sell year-round.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Richmond's Deepwater Terminal here on the James River. Grain and shipping containers leave here on a weekly basis for overseas customers. Many of them contain millions of dollars of Virginia farm products. BURKE MOELLER reports on how important trade is to Virginia's farm economy.
With the deepest maritime port on the East Coast and nearly $3 billion in agriculture and forestry exports, Virginia's farm economy is closely tied to international trade markets. Agriculture is the #1 private industry in Virginia, with a $70 billion economic impact each year, according to the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Commissioner of Agriculture Dr. Jewel Brana says her agency's International Marketing Division is dedicated to keeping those sales flowing.
We have trade offices in 7 countries where we have representatives that are there to help kind of make those connections and those relationships, develop those relationships within those countries. We continue to want to make sure that not only do we increase the number of countries who export our products and we develop those relationships, but we want to do more to sell those products so that our Virginia farmers can be successful and profitable.
Despite reduced exports due to disputes with China and other countries, foreign markets remain profitable for Virginia farmers. Poultry products are the top agricultural export commodity from Virginia. Individual growers like Greg Miller in Rockingham County aren't directly affected by the ups and downs of international trade policy because their birds are owned by corporations such as Purdue, Tyson's, and Pilgrim's Pride. Growers are paid by the poultry processing companies. But export sales are influenced by trade policy, and that eventually has an impact on Miller's bottom line.
Everything is about supply and demand, and companies can only lose so much money until they'll either start cutting farms or cutting bird placements, and then at that point, obviously, it could be it could really affect us all.
Miller raises birds for Cargill Incorporated. The Virginia Poultry Growers Cooperative processes poultry for distribution companies. John King runs the cooperative and says gaining access to foreign markets is extremely important.
The fact of the matter is that there's a certain type of product that the consumer in the United States, they won't eat as much. So there's parts of the bird that can go into the export market, and it performs better over there, it meets their needs. Sometimes that's a function of cost. It's a cheap form of protein or something like that, or sometimes it's just a preference for a different cut.
Last year, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam introduced an international strategic plan for the Commonwealth that would increase exports by 50% over the next 15 years. Trade disputes with China have had impacts on Virginia producers, especially in the soybean and pork industries. Brana says farmers welcome the $24 billion the Trump administration has provided for farmers affected by the trade disputes. Those funds accounted for approximately 1/3 of net farm income last year.
Farmers appreciate that, but what they appreciate more is the opportunity for a free market so that they can sell their products.
Virginia is the second largest state on the East Coast for farm exports, with total sales of almost $3 billion in 2018. The top destinations that year for Virginia farm goods were China, Canada, and Switzerland. Some Virginia farmers have sold their products directly to buyers in foreign countries, like soybeans to Japan and apples to Cuba. All these sales go a long way toward keeping Virginia's farm economy stable and prosperous. In Richmond, Virginia, I'm Burke MOELLER reporting.
Virginia farmers are eager to see new trade agreements go into effect in 2020. At the end of 2019, the United States signed a new agreement with Japan to reduce import tariffs on American foods like beef and pork and eliminate them on nuts, berries, fruits, vegetables, wine, cheese, and egg products. The opportunity for increased beef sales is particularly important for Virginia producers. Also, the United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement has just been approved. Canada and Mexico are consistently among the top 5 foreign markets for Virginia farm products.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to talk about when you can clean up your garden. Stay with us.
Farm Bureau is the insurance provider of choice for farmers. But did you know all Virginians can benefit? In fact, most of our members are not farmers. As a member, you are supporting worthy causes like local Virginia food banks and the Agriculture in the Classroom program. Your $40 membership will easily pay for itself with our many savings options. Farm Bureau is made for Virginians. Get the membership advantage by going to vafb.com or contact your local Farm Bureau.
Many gardeners like to see a neat landscape over the winter, but sometimes sparing old plants from the rake can make a difference to birds and wildlife. Mark Viette explains why in the garden.
If you look around me at this beautiful garden, you don't really see a whole lot. I mean, I see a couple trees, maybe 3 small shrubs. The rest is all bark. Well, this is really not something I personally like to look at all winter long. Now, some of you may like it because it's nice and neat and crisp, but let me give you a few alternatives about when to clean up the garden. I sort of like to have the garden look more natural and to have stuff in it. It also protects the birds. So let's go look at some of the areas in the garden that we've left untouched, and the best time to clean them are going to be in February or March. Well, when you're trimming plants, sometimes we get a little over-aggressive. So I'll mention a couple things, at least one, something that you really don't want to prune, or if you do prune, you do it in a very minimal manner, and that is tree peonies. Of course, regular peonies, they will cut back in the fall, maybe, September or October, but when talking about tree peonies, they form or produce little shrubs. Now, here, be happy if you get one that's 6 feet tall. I know in England and in Holland, they'll be 12, 15 feet tall, but this is a tree peony. So you can cut off the old pods. Again, I like to wait till February or March, but you would come in and remove some of the old pods. It is important, though, to really be careful for the buds, because the flower buds are right underneath those old pods. At the same time, you can remove some of the foliage. That's one that you really don't want to prune hard. I've had people in the past mistakenly prune these, and either they don't come back or they wait for 3 to 4 years for them to bloom again. There are some things that you can prune, like asters. Asters are best pruned, since there's so many different types. I generally say February or March. They still have the seed pods. Now, one of the reasons, some of you are looking at this, wow, that's kind of ugly. That's unattractive. But during the winter months, if we're trying to attract wildlife and birds to our garden, keep in mind that sometimes something like the Cooper's hawk will think your garden is a buffet, and they'll be in your garden day in, day out, looking to feed on your birds like cardinals, doves, finches, goldfinches. They'll feed on them as much as they can. So what I like to do is keep as much cover in the garden to give protection and camouflage for your bird. Once you're done pruning all these things, you also might find that you've got some daylilies and hostas. The other advantage to pruning these things or removing the foliage in the spring, is you don't need to cut it. You just reach in and pull the old foliage, just like that. And we're just about done. Now, there is one more important reason I normally wait till spring to clean up the garden, and that is I don't want to have to clean up the garden 3 times. I don't want to have to clean the garden in the fall. When a few leaves fall, go through the garden and rake and clean it a second time. And if you're dealing with some of the oaks, like the pin oaks behind me, they tend to drop their leaves very late. And especially if you had a hard freeze early in the fall, the leaves stay on your tree longer. So I want to cut my work down to a minimum. I wait till February or March, cut back what I can in the garden, and then all you do is just come in. This is the fun workout time. And especially if you have mulch on the ground, raking leaves off mulch 3 times tends to remove a lot of the mulch. So I'm also conserving mulch. And when I'm done, the garden is clean, and I usually take all this refuse, leaves and debris, and I go ahead, put it in my compost pile, so in 2 years, I can go ahead and reintroduce this into the garden as a soil amendment. Again, cut down on all that work unless you're looking for exercise. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Hi, I'm Tammy Brawley from The Green Kitchen. Coming up on Virginia Heart of the Home, I'm going to show you guys how to make some delicious Portuguese kale soup. Stay with us.
And now, a sneak peek into a day in the life of a Virginia dairy cow. They get their day started. They have some lunch. Get some exercise. Spend time with their friends. And then end their day with dairy sweet dreams. Real dairy, real life, real delicious.
The stereotypical hearty winter soup is full of carbs and meat. Chef Tammy Brawley enjoys those, but she also likes to warm up with a nutritious Portuguese kale soup in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Tammy Brawley from The Green Kitchen. We are here at Meadow Event Park with Virginia Heart of the Home. We are here to work with some great Virginia grown produce today. And I'm going to make you guys a delicious Portuguese kale soup. We are starting with a little bit of oil in our pot here, and we're going to saute some onions. Hearing that nice sizzle. I personally love the way onions smell when they're cooking. So we've got some nice onions in the saute pot with some nice hot olive oil. You can use a fat of your choice, but I prefer olive oil. Once that sautés just a little bit, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of chopped garlic. You don't want to add the garlic by itself because it will burn really, really quickly. So you want to make sure you have a little cushion in there, and that's kind of part of the onion's job as well. So we're letting that saute up a little bit, and now we're going to come back and we're going to add some chicken stock. If you've got some homemade stock, certainly pull it out of the freezer. It's easy to make, especially if you have leftover chicken or turkey carcasses. You can add those to a little bit of water with some celery and carrots and let that boil, strain it out the next day, and you've got a delicious homemade chicken stock. So we've got about 6 cups of stock in our pot here, maybe add a little bit more. And once that stock comes to a little bit of a boil, then you want to go ahead and add your vegetables. So what we've got is we've got some delicious fingerling potatoes. Fingerlings are exactly as they sound. They look like fingers. I think they're kind of funny looking. But we've got some chopped potatoes here. We're going to add that to our broth. And Portuguese kale soup is sort of a peasant soup. It's sort of whatever you've got left over in the refrigerator. I've got potatoes, obviously, but we've also got white beans here. Doesn't have to be a white bean. If you have a preferable bean, if you like a kidney bean or say a pinto bean, you can certainly use those. Cannellini beans are great. They're a little bit bigger, but these are just simply white northern beans. And then you want to get that stirred again. And then you want to come back and let's get some sausage added to that. Got some Italian sausage, our Virginia grown products. We are using some things today that came from Old Tavern Farm. We've got some of their pork sausage as well as their delicious potatoes I've already mentioned and the kale. We're just going to pinch off You can cut the sausage if you'd like. I personally prefer to do it out of the casing, so I simply pinch the meat out of the casing. Little bite-sized chunks. They don't have to be perfect by any means. We're looking for flavor here. That'll take a few minutes to cook. Oh, this is looking good. We'll come back and add some of this delicious kale. Kale, as everybody knows, is one of the healthiest things in the world. Lots of different ways to do it. I like making kale salads, but I love putting it in soups. I love actually making kale pesto. So we'll just mix up a few greens in that. All right, this is looking delicious. All right, we're going to add our seasonings. We've got a little bit of kosher salt. And we're going to add a little coarse ground pepper. Now we're going to let that come to a boil. Once it has boiled for a little bit, then we're going to come back and hit it with a little bit of red wine vinegar. A nice little acid touch at the end is always nice. If you don't have any vinegar, you can certainly use lemon juice, or you can use white wine vinegar. It doesn't have to be red wine vinegar. It's just a nice little acid base at the end. So we'll be back in a few moments, and we will see what this looks like in a bowl. So we're back. Our soup has come to a boil. Now it's time to finish it and eat this delicious soup. It's the Portuguese kale soup I mentioned. We've got some delicious Virginia-grown kale, Virginia-grown fingerling potatoes in here, and we're going to finish this off with a little bit of acid, a little bit of red wine vinegar. You can certainly use any other vinegar you'd like, but just a couple tablespoons. Yes, I'm eyeballing it. Some chefs don't measure. So we'll put a spoon back into it, stir it up a little bit. This looks absolutely delicious. So now we're going to put it into a bowl. Of course, we're not going to eat it right away because it is definitely very, very hot at this point. And the best way to serve this is with some nice crusty bread. This does happen to be gluten-free, so if you've got a gluten-free allergy, it's okay to use that. Cut some nice crusty bread to go on our plate with our soup. There we go. There you have it. A nice bowl of deliciousness, Portuguese kale soup. I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Join us next week on Virginia Heart of the Home for some more delicious recipes.
Recipes from the heart of the home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com, and visit Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com. Kale is grown on 172 acres on 256 Virginia farms, making it a minor crop for the state. But it has a solid advantage for small vegetable producers. Because it can tolerate light freezes, it's usually one of the first crops to be available in the spring and one of the last to be available in the fall. Packed with vitamins, kale is considered a superfood by nutritionists. 1 cup of kale contains healthy doses of fiber and protein, as well as vitamins A, C, and K, and folate, a B vitamin. Kale is a member of the cabbage family and is best eaten when the leaves are tender and young.
Canning, or preserving fruits and vegetables, allows farmers to sell produce year-round. Ricky Gibson visited with one Westmoreland County farmer as she prepared hundreds of jars of pepper jelly for her customers.
This is almost like summertime in a jar for some people.
Farmers and gardeners have been preserving fresh produce for more than a century using glass jars and other canning methods. The technology is tried and true, but there are very few places where a farmer can preserve fresh foods on a large commercial scale. There are only 10 canneries left in the Old Dominion, and Virginia Food Works in Prince Edward County is one of them. On a cold January day, a crew from Garner's Produce in Westmoreland County gathered to do just that with a load of last season's red peppers.
Today we're making pepper jelly, so it's pepper prep, and everybody's having fun playing with sugar, and everybody's learning something new.
Anything that we can put in a jar that is fresh from our farm, locally made, minimal ingredients, is always a benefit for us.
Clients here today are having a blast.
During the spring, summer, and fall, Garner's Produce sells fresh vegetables to local consumers and in Northern Virginia. Operations like this really benefit from having additional products to sell in the off-season. Because these are commercial food products, they must meet government safety standards.
This is a commercial cannery and kitchen. We are subdivided between the home canners and our commercial side. I'm strictly commercial. There are not very many places in the state of Virginia that provides our type of service on our scale. We have to deal with outside pesticides and regulations that were given by the FDA, by VDACs. We are under VDAC's rule. They come in and inspect us annually, and they inspect other clients who come in pretty much on an annual basis.
We decided we were going to use what we couldn't sell fresh as processed, and we wanted to get hot pepper jelly made. We've done it before, sold it at our farmers markets. It's a hot seller. People really enjoy it. People like giving it as gifts. Having a value-added product to add to our product line, especially in the winter months, is real important to us. We do farmers markets throughout the winter in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. Our roadside market is open until Christmas. After that, we run a local CSA nearby. So it's a very good addition to our market.
Great. $1.95. Our product has to be at 181 after 6 seconds, and that's internally inside the jar. We have to cook the product today at 190 for a maximum of, or minimum of 1 minute. So those are just some of the strict things that we have to adhere to on today's product. Every product is different, but every process approval will provide you with what are called the critical control points. 40% of our day is cleaning because we have to make sure everything is sanitized. And the rest of it's the fun part.
I'm having so much fun. This experience has been great. I didn't know all the methods and the things that go into this. I've canned at home personally, but never hot pepper jelly.
Fresh produce is an important part of Virginia's farm economy. The 2017 Census of Agriculture estimates more than $187 million worth of fruits and vegetables are sold each year in Virginia. Some farmers send their produce out to be preserved by a commercial firm. A few have their own facilities on site. The Boyle family wanted to do it themselves, in part to get a marketing edge. The folks at Virginia Food Works say they're not alone. They're booked solid with clients for most of the winter.
It's been educational. We are learning a lot about this process. No one really understood what went on until we got up here and we started doing it ourselves.
The purpose of this is not only to add an additional value-added product to the business, but it's to be able to tell the customers, hey, this is not only something we grew, that we were able to pick and to harvest, but it's also something that we prepared, and now we're able to give it back to you guys for you to enjoy. It's great. The customers, I think, will enjoy that more, knowing that not only did we grow it, but we had a hand in preparing it too.
People want to know where their food comes from now. Our millennials are actually interested. Not only do they not have to shop, but they're getting these foods that they know where they come from. In my case, they can come here and they know where their food's coming from because they're doing it themselves.
It will be guaranteed that whatever goes in that jar is produce from my farm. So it's locally grown, locally made, and we'll be selling it locally here shortly.
And we tried it. It's delicious.
In Prince Edward County, Virginia, I'm Ricky Gibson reporting.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all that Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our wide open spaces, we are proud to say this is Real Virginia. For all of us from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.